I would like to introduce our next keynote speaker, Mr. Nader Henein, who's the Regional Director of Advanced Security Solutions at the Advisory Division of BlackBerry. Mr. Henein runs the product security and public sector across the Middle East and Africa. Please could I get a round of applause for Mr. Henein.
Good morning, everyone. As Vanessa mentioned, my name is Nader Henein. I work for BlackBerry. I manage the security business here in the Middle East and across Africa. And across this presentation, I purely believe in brevity, so get you the point as succinctly as humanly possible. We'll talk about two main concepts. The first being the Internet of Things and the growth this represents for network providers and operators in the region. And secondly, we'll talk about cybersecurity and how that term has grown to represent both a concern but also an opportunity for many of the providers in the region. The knack is to connect everything today. And the revenue represented from that is obvious. More connection points, more revenue, more opportunity to make more money effectively. In the future, 99% of things will be connected. And if you look at the numbers coming across from various analysts, they're pushing to say that we're going to grow 10-fold over the next 5 years. A lot of things make sense to be connected. So street lights, canine monitors, textbooks, heart monitors, all of these things make sense to be connected. And we've seen some of the things make sense. So light bulbs, when you walk into a room, the light turns on. When you approach your house, the light turns on. Things like smart appliances, so that your washing machine runs at peak efficiency at specific times of the day. It costs you less to do a wash. And this is what's going into smart grids. Everything being connected, everything working together to give you better efficiencies and better results. This year at GITEX, I noticed this particular product on the MOI stand, and they were basically bands, smart bracelets for children. So parents know when they've gotten on the bus, when they've gotten to the school, when they got off the bus, and they can track them throughout their day. And that comes with a SIM card as well as with an emergency button should the child be in any kind of danger. So this is an example of everything becoming connected, including ourselves. Moving on from that, this product, Luna, achieved 1,000% of their Kickstarter target. They were able to raise close to $1 million when they only needed 100,000. This is a cover that goes on top of your mattress at home and connects your mattress to everything else in the house. So it calculates your heart rate, how well you sleep, but it also can adjust the temperature in the room and the lighting in the room, depending on what time of day, when you want to wake up, so everything works together. And this is an example of something that you just plug in and continue on living as you would, and it makes your life a little bit better. The best solutions exist transparently and improve your life without you having to do additional work. Good products make it easier to live, make it easier to do business without introducing more complexity. And then there are the silly things we see. So for example, if you walk into Dubai Mall or a Mall of the Emirates, go into Virgin, you'll find this product. For 250 dirhams, you can make your egg crate smarter. So you can get emails from your fridge telling you when you've run out of eggs. I'm not really sure if that's something I want. I get enough emails throughout the day without getting aggravation from my fridge particularly. This will all come with a huge data spike. As demand grows, it just makes sense. As more and more devices want to connect to the internet, want to connect through our devices, even directly, so whether a bracelet will have a SIM card or it doesn't, it will connect through your mobile device, they will demand more and more information. And according to Gartner, this year, we saw 5 billion things connect to the web. In 5 years, that number will grow by 5-fold to 25 billion devices. A lot of them you won't see, granted. Not everything is going to be a wearable, not everything will be a home appliance. But a lot of these devices are going to be vehicles. So a lot of the work that we do at BlackBerry in projects that you may have never heard of, project called ION, is basically taking your vehicles and making sure that they can connect and be updated without your interaction. So things will work and make your life better without you ever even touching them. Within vehicles today, 70% of you who drove here today used, in a way, the BlackBerry core operating system running inside your vehicles called QNX that manages things like acceleration or deceleration. And we're taking these systems and connecting them to give you better ride quality and be able to upgrade these vehicles without you having to drop them off at the dealership and lose 2 days in the process. Connectivity, conservatively, is going to grow by 8-fold in the next 5 years because of this trend. And if you look purely at the numbers in 2014, the numbers we know, mobile data traffic grew 69%. 109 million wearables produce 15 petabytes of data on a monthly basis. That's an increase in numbers. That's an increase in revenue. And we're always looking at the next big thing. So network operators and carriers, we're always looking at the next big thing. The day we install a 4G network, we're asking ourselves what comes next. And we're working on the next network, the next efficiencies, the next product. Data is the new voice. OTT is the new data, and we're moving on to the next step and the one after that. But what is the value of information? So all of this information is being generated, and a lot of us are storing this information because of regulatory requirements, because we just store it, because we know that this is information belonging to our customers. What is the value of this information? Well, by 2020, personally identifiable information, that means information that we hold on our customers, on our partners, is going to be worth over $500 billion in Europe. How does that reflect on us here in the Middle East? On average, the value of one record you hold on one of your customers, this includes billing information, contact information, GPS information, because you can track them as they go throughout their day, one record is worth $200. So think about it this way. If one record is worth $200, how many records do you hold on each one of your customers? A conservative operator here in the Middle East has 5 million subscribers. Multiply that by $200. That's the value of the data that you hold today in your databases, dormant, unutilized on your customers. But a follow-up question to that, if that's the value of the information that you have, how much are you spending on protecting this information? Are you hiring a chief security officer who answers to the board, not just to the chief information officer who then answers to somebody else, who then might answer to the CEO? Is he visible enough? Is security important enough for you? And what about privacy? I'm wearing a Fitbit. It tracks my heart rate, it tracks how many steps I take, it tracks everything throughout my day. It produces a substantial amount of information. A court case earlier this year in the US found for the plaintiff when their company shared their Fitbit information with their insurance provider, and they weren't able to get higher premiums. This is the value of all this information being produced. A few years ago, we were being warned about information that we put on LinkedIn, information we put on Facebook, information we put on social networks. Be careful, don't put this, don't put that out there. People could use it against you. People could use it to steal your identity. Now we have wearables that produce a substantial amount of information, and this information needs to be properly protected. Because not just for privacy concerns, but for a litany of reasons. This information is very, very valuable. But from a regulatory compliance perspective, how does this affect us all? How will this data be regulated, most importantly? Today, the laws are developing. They're developing fast because technology is moving even faster. How are you doing security compliance with this information? If the amount of data across your network is going to increase 5-fold in the next 5 years, you're going to be required to store 5 times more information in terms of metadata. How is your data retention policy affected? How is data privacy protection affecting you? The data protection regulation passing in Europe this year will affect every single carrier. I'll tell you why. The way it's written, it says, if you're storing information on EU citizens while they're in the EU, you are liable to that data protection regulation. You provide SIM cards to European citizens. These European citizens return to their countries to visit, to do business. And this information passes through your networks and is stored here. That makes a lot of the carriers in the room, a lot of the providers, a lot of the partners liable for this regulation. And banks, our customers, I've been working with customers who have been preparing for this regulation for years because it litigates how they store information, how they make it available, and when they remove this information from their networks. Breach disclosure is another thing. If you have a breach today, if you lose information, how do you deal with that? Are you running regular drills? Is it getting enough visibility? Has somebody lost a laptop in your company? Do you encrypt all of your laptops? All of this is very critical information that you have to think about. Most mobile providers produce a substantial amount of information, of metadata on their subscribers. That information is very valuable. How you protect this information is equally important. From a revenue perspective, protecting this information makes you the more secure provider, the more secure network operator, the more privacy conscious, and that is a marketable asset. That is an advantage on the competition. And our users are becoming more and more aware of this. In 1,500 incidents of breach last year, 1 billion records were lost. 1 billion records. This number has already been reached this year. So we're not even halfway through March, and already there's been breaches that have accounted for more than 1 billion records lost. That's a substantial amount of information when you think about the average value of a record being about $10 to $15. It's not as comprehensive as the records you hold on your subscribers, but it's quite comprehensive in itself. This is billions upon billions of dollars being stolen and easily being sold into a secondary market. It's not like walking into a bank and stealing dollar bills or dirhams. Those bills are tracked. They have numbers. It's difficult to launder money. It's very easy to sell stolen information. Stolen credit card numbers, there are dozens of markets out there. Millions upon millions of bitcoins changing hands anonymously. Very easy to get rid of this information, and you don't have to trade it at a discount. Network operators today are the first and last line of defense in many cases. They are charged with protecting the consumer, so the end user, me, with my mobile device, me with my home connection, trying to get by on day-to-day, connecting, sending emails, receiving emails, talking to friends, and I want my privacy maintained. And in many cases, for consumers, the network operator is the first and last line of defense. And let me repeat this. Providing a more secure experience, providing a more private experience for the end user is a reason why an end user would select your network over another one. Being the more secure network is a marketable asset. Just look at BlackBerry. We've struggled with on the device business over the past few years. This is not a surprise to anyone. But what's kept us in the game is that we've put in a lot of investment in being the more secure product, in being the product that respects your privacy more. We've spent a lot of intellectual property building more secure products, and it's kept us in the game. Our government customers like it, our banking and finance customers like it, our enterprise customers like it. So security has become a much more important differentiator. Whereas previously it used to be always viewed as a cost center, now it's a revenue center. Now it's a differentiator. Now it's making a big difference. And it doesn't just matter for consumers, it matters for your enterprise customers. They want a more secure experience as well. They want those added services that you offer to better secure their networks, to provide them with better security and better products, where you store information, how this information is routed, how you protect them from denial of service attacks or from spam, at the very least. And last but not least, there is the protection of your own internal defenses. I mentioned earlier that each record you hold on one of your customers is worth $200. Multiply that by the number of customers and start thinking, am I spending enough to protect this information? Is my chief security officer, do I have a chief security officer? And are they visible enough? The most obvious example of a massive security fail is what happened at Target earlier last year. In 19 days, Target lost 40 million credit and debit card numbers information belonging to 70 million customers. This information caused their stock to go from $69 to $46. Their revenues for that quarter dropped 56%. They, to date, have paid over $200 million in damages. There are still 150 court cases ongoing, and the regulatory damages are not calculated yet. Their CEO of 35 years, who has been through everything, including product recalls, people being poisoned or shot at their supermarkets, had to resign. All happened in 19 days. If you think this is something that won't happen in our region, it's already happened. We've seen examples over the past few years. We're learned to deal with things better. Our press is much more respectful of organizations, especially if they're governmental. But this happens in our region, and we lose money because of it, and we lose market share because of it, and we lose customers because of it. When this happened in Target, people drove past their supermarkets to the competitor. That happens. So that was me. I don't want to take up any more of your time. As mentioned, I am here today. So is my colleague Kostas, if you want to have a conversation later on. And if you want to have a more private conversation, please reach out to me either through email or on LinkedIn. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nader. Do we have any questions in the room? Any questions from anyone in the audience? Okay, well, I've got a question. You spoke about connected devices, data explosion, value of information, privacy, really, really interesting insights into where the future is heading. In terms of the carriers, and many of us are carriers in the room, how do you think, data explosion and connected devices, for example, how do you think that's going to impact carriers in the future, and how can carriers fit into these future technologies?
There's two parts to this. On one hand, the increase in demand is going to require more capacity, more space, more storage, more regulatory demands on top of that kind of information, because the different types of information are managed differently. But on the other side, there's the revenue side. There's an opportunity there. As connected devices increase, so do endpoints. The example of Uber. When I use Uber today, I sit in a car, I realize that the driver has his own phone, has an Uber device, and some drivers also have a Careem device, an Uber competitor. And this is now a driver who used to have one phone, they now have three. So that's an example of a growth in one sector that basically tripled the number of connected points to one user. With IoT and with smartphones, smart this, smart that, Fitbit, fitness counters, all of these things make it so one individual, as they walk through the room, is no longer one connection point, one bill. It's a multitude of things. So the growth isn't just a depth in how much you can make from one connection, it's the number of connections you can sell to one individual. Further to that, making sure products have connections. I mentioned vehicles. A lot of people think the SIM card in a vehicle is just to make calls. There's another SIM card inside the vehicle to make sure that the data travels back to the manufacturer to provide you with better and safer cars, to make sure that the cars are updated at a regular rate so that they don't have to do millions upon millions of recalls or request you to come in for a 2-day service when you don't have to. All of these things change the way we work, and they impact revenue for the network operators who are willing to take a chance and become the first adopters within these industries.